I'm beginning to understand that taking breaks is productive. And I don't just mean that in, taking breaks from work, even though that is kind of what I mean. But I also just mean in the sense of who we are as people. Taking a break from perhaps the circumstances that you find yourself in, from the way that you act towards others, the way that you exist, and almost just allowing yourself to recuperate from that, allowing yourself to reclaim and re-identify who you are, and moving forward from there. I think that can be a very productive and a very beneficial thing. I'm starting to understand that we don't owe it to anyone to remain consistent to who we are. And that doesn't just mean, be a bad person towards everyone or, like just cut people off randomly. But I mean that in the sense that we're allowed to change. And I think it's not necessarily about other people preventing us from change and other people being so against us changing, but it's us not giving ourselves the grace to make that change for ourselves. So when I say that taking breaks is productive, like I said, I do mean that in a work sense, but I also mean that in a sense that taking a break from who you are, taking a break from who you think you are, who you have been, and instead identifying with who you want to be and going forward from there. I think that can be a very productive thing. Because, it's the quote that says, oh, if you always, like, oh, I'd rather admit that I'm wrong rather than live in, the wrong door for my entire life. It's something like that. I kind of pushed that. But you know what I mean. In the sense that it's almost about recognizing whether or not you're on the right path, whether or not you're on the path that you actually want to be on, whether you are who you want to be. And if there's any aspect of you that doesn't really align with who you want to be, who you can imagine yourself being, then it's almost about, adjusting at halftime, almost course correcting and allowing yourself to then be in that position, allowing yourself to then be where you want to be in the present moment, being who you want to be. So, when I say taking breaks is productive, I mean it in the sense that we don't owe it to anyone, not a single person, to be working 24/7. And I mean that in both a literal sense and in a figurative sense. We don't owe it to anyone to be consistent with who we've been in the past if that's not who we identify with, if that's not who we truly think is the best version of ourselves. So it's about recognizing that you do have the ability to change and taking breaks from who you have been. That also can be in a positive and in a negative light, in the sense that if you always identified with negative qualities, you can change from that. You don't owe it to anyone to remain identifying with those negative qualities. And it also works the same way in substantiating positive qualities, in the sense that we don't owe it to anyone if there's one positive quality that we don't identify with anymore. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but almost resubstantiating another positive quality that we do identify with. Like if you, I don't know, if you were like an artist or something, but you no longer truly identify with being an artist, and instead you want to be, I don't know, an accountant, let's say. There's nothing wrong with then identifying with being an accountant. There's nothing wrong with substantiating that change. You don't owe it to anyone to be consistent. Because at the end of the day, it's your life. You should be kind to everyone, yes, but that doesn't mean that you should constantly be sacrificing your own life, sacrificing what you could be, just so that you can think that you're pleasing other people. Because ultimately, you're never going to please everyone. And ultimately, we don't owe it to anyone to be consistent with who we are. We don't owe it to anyone else to be who we are. It's something that we owe it to ourselves. And we are the only people that we live with 24/7. No one else knows you as well as you know yourself, except for God. So it's about recognizing that, and then recognizing that you can make that change. And it's a decision. It's deciding to substantiate something positive, something that aligns with yourself more, and going from there. I have a Bible verse that goes with the topic of this video pretty well. It's taken from Matthew 11, verse 28 to 29. And it says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls." So it's really just about trusting God. It's trusting that aligning yourself, not only with who you want to be, with who he wants you to be, aligning yourself with that. And going from there, it literally says it directly that he'll bring you rest. You'll be able to be relaxed. Because I think that when we're in 100% alignment with who we are and who we want to be, then nothing really takes effort anymore. It's like a constant flow state. It's like someone who loves going to the gym, someone who identifies with someone who goes to the gym. It's not something that takes effort in order to do. Maybe occasionally, some circumstance, rain outside or something like that. Okay, yeah, maybe you could be a bit druggy when you're getting there. But ultimately, it doesn't really take that much effort to do. Just in the same way that it doesn't take effort for us to breathe, because we identify with as being people who breathe. So it's about recognizing that I think that if you're truly in alignment with yourself, then nothing that you do ever truly requires effort. It's all stuff that kind of just happens naturally. So, I just think it's important that we almost give ourselves a break. Give ourselves a break perhaps from the way that we have been, and of course correcting to who we want to be. Almost forgetting who you were in the past, because the past doesn't exist and the future doesn't exist. And substantiating who you want to be in the present. So, I hope you took something from this video. Thank you for watching.